the region we help shape. To tell us more about the Philippines' dynamic growth story, anchored in resilience, driven by reform, and aligned with ASEAN's shared aspirations, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome the man of the hour, President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.
Mr. President, how are you feeling today?
Oh, much better than I was maybe a couple of weeks ago.
We are glad that you're in good health.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you so much for spending time with us and talking about the Philippine dynamic growth story.
Well, it has certainly been an exciting time for the Philippines in many senses because we have really approached the entire system of governance, especially as it pertains to the economy, by making serious structural changes in the way that we do business. And of course, like any large change that is being attempted, it is not an easy thing to do. The bureaucracy is a very, I think I characterize it as being akin to one of these very large tankers where you turn the wheel and it takes, 10 kilometers for it to actually start moving. And my experience has been a government bureaucracy is very much like that. And so it's much of the frustration comes from an impatience. Can we not move this faster? Can we not move this? Can we not get this done much more quickly? And so that is part of the structural changes that we're talking about. The structural changes that we are trying to make in terms of the way government works, but also in being able to respond more quickly. And to that wheel, when we turn the wheel, let's just say we have decided to change direction or take on a new policy, how to be able to adjust much more quickly than we are able to adjust now. So it's a very interesting problem. It's a difficult problem, but it's an important thing that we have to do. And I think we are beginning to be met with some success.
And Mr. President, when you're turning that wheel, some say it's power steering. It's perspiration steering.
Yeah, well,
are we now moving more towards power steering?
I should hope
faster reforms.
I hope so. I think that is certainly one of the aims of what we are trying to do. We have we view the global economy in very many ways. In that. There is a great deal of volatility, as we have seen in the past years. And in fact, we had hoped that after COVID, that things would calm down and that we would set directions and we would slowly just move in those directions, or not so slowly, quickly move down that road that we have set for ourselves. However, the shocks have come in and unexpected. Not only in the economic world, but also in the political world, the geopolitical world. And I remember very early on in the administration, I would always describe the geopolitical situation in Philippines, in Southeast Asia, in the South China Sea, as the most complicated geopolitical situation in the world. Boy, was I wrong. That changed very, very quickly. And so now we are surrounded by these geopolitical upheavals. And so there is one of the main things that we are striving for is to provide stability and to be able to say that whatever shocks, we should learn from our COVID experiences. We should also learn from the experiences that we are now presently going through to be able to say that we are more robust And no matter what happens, that we are able to be resilient, and we are able to adjust. And that is what we are trying to do. So there is an element of stability and robustness. And however, as I have just explained, the world has brought upon us many changes.
Yeah.
So there's also a need to be agile. So that is the balance that we have to find.
So, Mr. President, how are you providing this stability for the Philippine economy?
For the Philippine economy, what we have tried to do, of course, is that, in my view, one of the most important elements of that, well, political stability, of course, is at the very heart of it. But more than that is we have to change the ways that we do business. Now, we have been talking about the global economy for a very long time now. And certainly, it is very much the case. But we in the Philippines have really been dependent on traditional or established markets, investors, and that has had to change. And the change is that we then go to, first, we do business in a different way in the world today. So must the Philippines, and those are the changes that we are trying to do. Secondly, we need to go out into the world a great deal more. For example, what I describe it as that we have to engage non-traditional suppliers, non-traditional investors to be part of the Philippine economy. And when I say non-traditional, what I mean by non-traditional is non-traditional to the Philippines. The countries that we have not really traded with before, areas, regions that we have not really engaged before. And sometimes the reason that we haven't done that is simply because of physical distance. We are now talking a great deal more to the EU, but as a trading bloc. But also we are doing a lot bilaterally with the different countries that are EU members. Latin America also presents a great opportunity, and we are trying to engage as well, considering that there is such great commonality between the Philippines and the Latin American countries. I often describe the Philippines as the only Latin country in Asia. And I think that is to our benefit, and we should take advantage of that, and we should build on that. So there are Canada is now become one of our strongest partners. France will be one of our strongest partners, I believe. So these are non-traditional for the Philippines in terms of trade, and that we have to engage that. And that goes over as well into the question of stability. And when we talk about commerce, trade, what the businessmen, what investors are looking for is stability and vision. You need stability so that, and you have to have a vision, you have to have a plan, you have to have a goal. And that can be that is recognizable to prospective businesses, that they see, okay, this is what the Philippines wants to do. And these are the things that the Philippines is doing to try to achieve that goal. We should be part of that. And that is the kind of, that is the way that we are trying to make the Philippines, that we are making, it is succeeding, that we are making the Philippines a more investor-friendly and more investor-attractive country.
You talk about investor-friendly, you talk about political and economic stability. When I talk to foreign investors, Mr. President, they're always telling me about the ease of doing business.
Yes.
The number,
Yeah.
not dozens,
Yeah.
but the hundreds of signatures that you need to be able to get, let's say, things done.
Yep.
Right? They say it's about 200 to 300 signatures, while in Singapore, it only takes 1 to 2 days to sign up. I lived in Singapore for many years. And then in Thailand, it takes about 2 months. In Vietnam. how can we align the ease of
Singapore-
doing business with our ASEAN neighbors?
Singapore's just a touch smaller than the Philippines. So maybe in that sense there is a... But of course that is a perfectly valid statement. That's a perfectly valid insight. And it really, the bureaucracy, that's why I mentioned the bureaucracy earlier, has been one of the main, shall we say, roadblocks to quicker processing and simple things. Things like we were in a meeting the other day. The things like getting a copy of your birth certificate.
Yes.
And we went through the process of saying, how does it go and how long does it take? And it takes a month, maybe a month and a half. Why would it take a month and a half? Because, again, you have to go through this entire process, which is very slow, and it's still done by hand. The files are still in handwritten form. And so that's why we are trying to fix that. And we are minimizing now the necessary contact between the citizen and the government for anything that they do. And we are relying very much on the new technologies, on the internet, because we are 7,600 plus islands. And it is too much to ask for somebody who is living on a relatively isolated island to find a way to go to the regional center, go to the government office there, and get the documents that they have. But we have this advantage. We have this technology. We have this. This is for the Philippines, for a country like the Philippines, which, as I said, is a very large archipelago. I think we are the second most islands in the world, only following Indonesia. And for us, that is a godsend. And we fully intend to make full use and maximize the use of those technologies. And we now have what we call the eGov app, which is an application which allows you over the internet to get in touch with different government agencies, and in that way do your business online. And you know for example, our personal identification, our IDs, 70% now. Is it 70% of our personal IDs are now digital? And that's something that you can get immediately just by filling out the form. The remaining 30% is those people who still insist on having a physical ID. And that's that kind of sort of thinking, I guess, will eventually change. It's a generational thing, it really is. And you still pull your wallet out and want to show your ID. But now, the younger generation are from millennials onwards, are finding it much easier to adapt to that and prefer it. And so these are the kinds of things that we are trying to do. On the ease of doing business, again, it's the bureaucracy that gets in the way. And the necessity for having all these forms. You know, you wait in line for 2 hours, 3 hours. You know, this is your day is gone. You wait for 2-3 hours, you get one signature, and you say, thank you. And they say, okay, now you have to go to the other office, which is across town. And then with our wonderful traffic, you know, that takes another hour and a half. It is across town to get another signature, and you get another signature and another signature. For example, to register a new corporation, we looked it up, and the number of signatures or forms that you have to fill up are just ridiculous, are crazy. Our model is Singapore, because in Singapore, all you have, I think it's 2 or 3 documents that you have to go through, and they're all one office next to the other. And that's Vietnam, the same thing. And that's why they've become so successful. Vietnam, I know businessmen who opened businesses in Vietnam from the Philippines, Filipinos who have gone to Vietnam, and they say, you know, we had just dinner with a minister, and the next day we woke up, all the papers were there, we just had to sign, we signed them, we came home, finished. And that's what we are aspiring to do. And that's what, but there is much to unravel, and there is much to undo. Much of the problem comes from, shall we say, a tendency by our legislators to have knee-jerk reactions to things. So when a problem arises, they immediately say, okay, we'll put another level of tests, of checks and balances. And sometimes the checks and balances are lying on top of one another, and they are often, in fact, contradictory. And now the bureaucrat, the civil servant, is hesitant to actually just go and just do it and get it done, because if you really look hard enough, you will find that they have violated something somewhere, some little rule that nobody really pays any attention to, that has no use whatsoever, that has never been invoked, but they are worried. And so this kind of attitude, this kind of atmosphere needs to change. That the best way is the quickest way and the most efficient way. It is not the way that will avoid any trouble, because we will not, that is not what government is about. We're not here to find fault. If, for example, you make a mistake, I'm not going to file an administrative case against you. I'm going to go there and help you and say, why was this a problem? And what can we do to make it better? And that's what we are trying to do with government. And I think in the 10 kilometers that we're waiting, maybe we're about kilometer 8 now. So we're moving, but it's coming along, but much, much, much more slowly than we would like for it to be.
Definitely. We would like it much faster to attract new foreign investors into the country. Is this red tape, Mr. President, and this bureaucracy also the cause of why we have fallen even below Vietnam in terms of attracting FDIs? In 2024 alone, there was $230 billion worth of investments in ASEAN. And in the Philippines, we just attracted $10 billion.
Yes.
Is it because of the red tape? Is it the bureaucracy? Because when there's a bureaucracy and things are not digitalized, right, Mr. President, things fall through the cracks.
Yes.
It's all about corruption.
And there's that too. That doesn't help. We have developed a very strange system in the Philippines where you have fixers.
Yes.
Where instead of waiting for 2 to 3 hours in line, and going from one office to another and wasting 3 days of your life trying to get this simple permit, to open a business or some such thing. They have somebody who will sidle up to you and say, you give me X amount and I'll fix it. And they're in cahoots with the bureaucrat, with the civil servant. They say, okay, then they'll go there and they say, come on, you rush this one. They rush it, they pay their money, they split the money between the fixer and the guy at the desk. And that's what we want to completely remove. And again, digitalization is going to be the key for us, because we are trying to remove in these processes, we are trying to remove as much discretion on the civil servant as possible. For 2 reasons. Number 1, of course, it will make things quicker. It will make things easier. Number 2, it will remove that fear from civil servants that they made a mistake, an honest mistake. And so they're no longer as hesitant, because we didn't say yes or no at any point. We just processed a piece of paper and we did exactly as the rules say, or no physical contact, no person-to-person contact at all. And people will fill out the form or fill out the forms necessary. We minimize as well those forms. And they will get it is what they want.
End of your term.
Full digitalization?
Yes.
Certain agencies, certainly. We have prioritized, especially in the health sector. That's been the number 1 priority, because that has been, what happens is that when you ask for assistance from government, the assistance is forthcoming, but the process takes so long that it becomes too late. And the person that's waiting for it died already, or it just didn't bother anymore, or sometimes just didn't bother going anymore, and just got sick and tried to get well at home. And that's a tragedy. So health systems are number 1. The in government functions, all of these things like simple permits, IDs, the renewing driver's licenses, And even on a larger scale, for the big corporations, the forms that are required to put up a corporation, to enter into a contract with the government or with another commercial entity, all of these things, we look to digitalization to help. And that goes right back to the ease of doing business, and make it easier for people to come. And should they decide to invest in the Philippines, then make it easy for them. Now, the other part of the answer to your question about why we, in terms of FDI, we have fallen behind, is also because what the other element of this that I said was vision. We haven't really given a roadmap to our prospective investors about what the Philippines wants to do. Where are the areas? Do you want to go into electric vehicle manufacturing? Do you want to go into mining? Do you want to go into batteries? Do you want to, what is it that the Philippines is going to spend money on? Where is the public expenditure going, and why there? And once you are making that clear to investors, there will be investors who will say, we should be part of that. We will make money doing that in the Philippines. And then coupled, hopefully, with an ease of doing business, then that will make us more attractive to all our different partners and trade partners around the world.
I think, Mr. President, for many investors who are also here in this room, what they really want is the sustainability of policies from one administration to another, because there is no consistency.
Yes.
You know, one administration imposes this type of policies, your administration. And you have done a lot, Mr. President, in terms of the Green Lanes, the Create More Act. I mean, you've done a lot for to be able to make foreign investors come into the country. But I mean, you have basically 2 years left. So it is important that the next administration follows what you've already started.
And that is why we have to be very, very, that people have to understand very, very well what it is that we are trying to do and what the benefits of what we are trying to do is. We've entered now into an entirely different arena. But the political stability is certainly something that is very, very important. There maybe less now, but of course in our history, there has been that element of small town politics, where it really, from, you know, you're in a little town, you are running to be mayor, and you're campaigning against, let's say, the incumbent or whoever, the incumbent. And, you know, you're criticizing the incumbent and saying, you know, what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing, they're this, they're that, they're that, they're that. And they win. And therefore, by necessity, then they have to say everything my opponent did was wrong. So all their projects stop. I have a better idea. I have a better. It's halfway done. The schoolroom is halfway done. All you have to do is put a roof on it. Why don't you just do that? You know, then we'll have a new schoolhouse. But no, and that has filtered up to even at the national level, where whoever went before me, who I opposed, and the presidents only get one term. So you will always be opposing the incumbent. So you have to show that everything that this person did in the past was wrong, and that you criticize and criticize and criticize. The wonderful thing about being in the opposition is you don't actually have to get anything to work. All you have to do is criticize. All you have to do is pull your opponent down. And that's the problem that we face. We have to really educate people into what we are trying to do. I'm not here I'm not president, you know, to show off or to whatever, to help certain parts of the economy or friends or relatives. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to do these structural changes so that the Philippines becomes more investment friendly. And we are starting to feel the effects of that, the beneficial effects of that. And then you are able to say, do you want to stop those beneficial things? Because if we do not elect a like-minded president in 2028, all of these will just go by the wayside. Now, one of the things we have tried to do to make those systems more robust is to make them as widespread as possible, number one. Then I'm talking about things like education, healthcare, social benefits. Make them so widespread that people immediately feel the benefits, and therefore they will refuse to allow any future leader to stop those beneficial effects. However, when it comes to the economy, that is much more difficult. Because how many economists are there? There's less than 0.01% of the populace are actual economists who look at numbers, who look at the inflation rate, who look at the core inflation, the inflation coming from food products, the inflation coming from fuel, and try to analyze GDP growth, the ratio between debt and the GDP, all of these things. No, who looks at that? No one. Very few people, maybe us, people in this room. Those are the people that look at it. So it's harder to explain. And the only way really to, shall we say, sell your policies is to make people feel the effects of those policies. And that is the short of changing the electoral system. But I think those of you who live here in the Philippines have seen the difficulties that arise when the Constitution is being questioned and that there are suggestions to amend the Constitution. And so these are the difficulties that we find. But as long as we are able to show that these policies and these measures that we have undertaken are of benefit, and we can, then people will say, well, if I feel the benefit, my life is just that much better because of these things, then I want to keep it. And that's the best way that you can do that. The other way that we've tried to do it is to enshrine them in law. And that's much more difficult to change. So some of these policies are enshrined. Create More is the one that you mentioned. Create More is the amendment that we have to the old Create Act, which is which was an act which was to provide incentives for investors, both on the plus side, incentives in actual tax breaks and things like that, and in sanctions for people who do not follow the rules. And we enlarged it. That's why it has now come to be called the Create More, because there are now more incentives, because there are industries that didn't exist when that law was written, that now are very, very attractive. And I think everyone understands they mostly belong in the digital world, but then there's also mining, which is a traditional industry in the Philippines.